So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal.
Jesus was a working man, a hero.
What if I told you a song could spark a movement, crash a political rally, or get you blacklisted without firing a single bullet? In the 1960s, it happened. A lot. Before the age of viral tweets and TikTok tantrums, protest songs were our frontline. And some of them, they still hit harder than ever. So, which ones are still punching through the noise today? Let's find out. 10. I Don't Want Nobody to Give Me Nothing. James Brown, 1969.
I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door.
James Brown wasn't just the godfather of soul, he was the godfather of saying it plain. While other artists wrote metaphors and painted poetic pictures, Brown marched straight to the mic with this no-nonsense track about self-empowerment. This wasn't a protest in the traditional stop the war sense. It was about dignity, economic power, the right to earn and build and grow without begging for permission. I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door, I'll get it myself.
I don't want nobody to give me nothing. Open up the door.
That line hit like a hammer in 1969, and it still does. Because at its core, it's not just a demand, it's a declaration of worth. And here's a thought. How many protest songs today are that blunt and unfiltered? Maybe that's why James still resonates. 9. Freedom Highway. The Staple Singers, 1965. The gospel roots. The marching rhythm. The unmistakable soul. Freedom Highway wasn't just a song, it was a sermon set to music. And when the Staple Singers belted out this anthem during civil rights marches, it wasn't for applause. It was for survival. Built on the brutal truths of Black experience in America, the song was inspired by the Selma to Montgomery marches and the tragic events of Bloody Sunday. March up Freedom's Highway, marching each and every day. You could feel the gravel beneath their feet. The danger, the defiance, the faith that something better was possible. Why doesn't this one make more lists? Maybe because it sounds more church than chart. But that's part of its genius. It used sacred sounds to shake a secular nation. 8. Too Many Martyrs. Phil Ochs and Bob Gibson, 1963. Here's one.
Too many martyrs and too many dead.
Here's one that history books often overlook. Before Phil Ochs became known for his more famous protest songs, he teamed up with folk singer Bob Gibson to honor Medgar Evers, the civil rights leader assassinated in Mississippi in 1963. Too many martyrs and too many dead, too many lies, too many empty words were said.
Too many lies, too many empty words were said.
The lyrics are heartbreaking, honest, raw. They don't romanticize the pain, they name it. And in a decade filled with too many martyrs, Evers, King, the four girls in Birmingham, this song stood as a quiet memorial. No electric guitars, no screams. Just a haunting call not to forget. Ever wonder how many powerful protest songs we lost to time simply because they weren't chart toppers? This one's a buried treasure. 7. The Patriot Game. Dominic Behan, popularized by Judy Collins, 1964. Wait.
Patriots Game.
Wait. A protest song from Ireland? Yep. And Judy Collins brought it across the Atlantic with a rendition so haunting, it became a quiet anthem for anti-war sentiment in the US. The song critiques the glorification of war and the young lives lost to nationalism and ideology. And I don't mind a few words of praise for the cause that I'm fighting for. But what do you do with the man who has nothing but pity for patriot lore? Collins' gentle delivery made it even more devastating. It didn't rally you, it haunted you. And for Americans growing disillusioned with the Vietnam War, this foreign ballad somehow felt deeply personal. Sometimes the best protest songs aren't born from bombs and flags, but from broken hearts. Scenario 6. Children of Darkness. Richard and Mimi Fariña, 1965. Richard Fariña may not be a household name like Dylan, but his impact in folk protest circles was enormous. This song, sung with his wife Mimi, Joan Baez's younger sister, mourns the lost potential of young lives cut short by violence and injustice. Children of Darkness are older than light. The winter is colder than everything right.
When the light of reason fails,
Released the same year as the Watts riots and Vietnam escalation, Children of Darkness didn't shout or accuse. It simply grieved. If you're from a generation that watched idealism crumble on the evening news, this one will hit you right in the soul. And here's the kicker. Richard Fariña died in a motorcycle accident just a year later, making his words feel even more ghostly and prophetic. If these songs are bringing back memories, or if they're introducing you to protest gems you'd somehow missed, do us a favor, hit that like button. Share this video with a friend who grew up with the sounds of change, and drop your favorite forgotten protest track in the comments. The kind that still gives you chills. All right, back to it, because we've still got 5 more songs that shook the system without ever raising a fist. Track 5, We Shall Be Free. Jimmy Collier and Reverend Frederick Douglass Kirkpatrick, 1963.
We shall be free, yeah. When the last thing
This duo might be one of the best-kept secrets of the civil rights music movement. Jimmy Collier was handpicked by Dr. King himself to be the official field musician for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. This song, raw, acoustic, and unfiltered, was performed during rallies, marches, even inside jail cells. We shall be free, we shall be free. When we learn to love each other, we shall be free.
and when money talks for the very last time.
Sound familiar? Think of it as a parallel to We Shall Overcome, but even more pointed. While Overcome promised hope, Be Free demanded action. And while the world remembers the marches, we often forget the music that kept those marchers going mile after mile. Text 4. White Boots Marching in a Yellow Land. Phil Ochs, 1966. Yes.
When your white boots marching in a yellow land.
Yes, Phil's back. You didn't think we could make this list without letting him unload a little more fire, did you? In this track, he tackles the Vietnam War again, but this time, with imagery that's less poetic and more punch in the gut. White boots marching in a yellow land. Nothing but a child knows the way, but the child is not your soldier, not today. It was brutal, uncomfortable.
When the firing squad is ready, they'll be spitting where they stand.
Purposefully provocative, Ochs wasn't interested in being liked. He was interested in being heard. And in the era of sanitized news and flag-waving broadcasts, this song dared to say what many wouldn't. We're killing children in someone else's backyard. Heavy stuff? Absolutely. But isn't that what protest music is supposed to be? 3. Ballad of the Carpenter. Ewan McCall. Covered by Roberta Flack, 1969. Here's a deep
2,000 years have passed and gone, and many a hero.
Here's a deep cut with roots in both folk and faith. Originally written by British singer Ewan McCall, it tells the story of Jesus, not as the gentle lamb of Sunday school, but as a radical figure who was rejected by the world he tried to save. Jesus was a working man and a hero, you will hear.
Jesus was a working man, a hero.
When Roberta Flack got her hands on it, she turned it into a soulful, slow-burning epic that asked a hard question. Would we even recognize justice if it came knocking? This wasn't just religious metaphor, it was political critique. A protest against capitalism, classism, hypocrisy, and sung in Roberta's haunting tones, it turned scripture into subversion. For 2, Vietnam. Jimmy Cliff, 1969. Jimmy Cliff was a reggae pioneer, but this song made him a protest icon. Hey, look yonder. Tell me what you see. Marching to the fields of Vietnam. Simple words, a reggae beat. But don't be fooled. This wasn't a feel-good track. Bob Dylan called Vietnam the greatest protest song ever written. Think about that for a second. Cliff tells the story of a mother who receives a letter saying her son has died in war. That's it. No sugarcoating, no politics, just pain. And maybe that's why it's so powerful, because sometimes the truest protest is just telling the story that no one wants to hear. 1. Love Me, I'm a Liberal. Phil Ochs, 1966.
So love me, love me, love me, I'm a liberal.
We're closing with one of the most controversial protest songs of the entire decade. Phil Ochs again, but this time, instead of aiming at conservatives or war hawks, he roasts his own side. 10 degrees to the left of center in good times, 10 degrees to the right if it affects them personally.
As long as they don't move next door. So love me, love
Ochs tears into the kind of liberals who claim to support the movement, until it becomes inconvenient. Sound familiar? This song is satire at its sharpest. Still uncomfortable, still relevant, still a brutal mirror for anyone who thinks yard signs equal action. And the fact that it came out in 1966? That tells you just how little the world has changed. So what makes a protest song stick? Is it the lyrics? The courage? The moment it lands in history? Maybe it's all three, or maybe it's something deeper. That feeling in your chest when a song says exactly what you've been afraid to say out loud. These 10 tracks didn't just protest, they prophesied. They whispered truths. They shouted warnings. And they gave people who felt powerless a soundtrack for survival. And that's why they still matter today. Now it's your turn. Which protest song still gives you goosebumps? What lyrics stopped you cold the first time you heard them? Drop your favorites in the comments. Share this video with someone who needs to remember what real music sounds like. And don't forget to subscribe, because here on Decade Legends, we're not just about nostalgia. We're about legacy. And the legacy of 1960s protest music? It's still marching on.